Hey guys, how you doing? So today we have a side-by-side comparison with the Launch Pro3 Ace Elite and the Xtool D9S Pro. And we're going to first look at both these and look at the size, look at the VCIs, and then we're going to boot them up. I'm going to hook them to a vehicle, and we're going to, as close as we can, compare these side by side to see what scanner might be right for you. So the first thing, the Launch has a 10.1 inch screen. The Xtool has a 9.7 inch screen. They both run Android 10. The Launch has a 2 gig 4-core processor, while the Xtool has a 1.8 gig 4-core processor. The resolution on the Launch, 1280 by 800. Resolution on the Xtool, 1024 by 768. Now the Launch has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of ROM. Now the Xtool has 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of ROM. They both have 8 megapixel rear cameras. Now the Launch says that it'll go all the way back to 1984. It does come with some adapters. The Xtool goes to 1996 and forward. So if anyone, I don't work on too many older vehicles, but if anyone has been able to connect any of these modern scan tools to a vehicle older than 96, let me know, because they do come with a wide variety of different connectors for the older OBD1 plugs, but I've never had a chance to actually hook up to an older vehicle. The battery on the Launch is 6,300 milliamp. The battery on the Xtool is 6,400 milliamp. They both have about 41 to 42 special functions or service functions. They both have topology. Now the Launch is FCA or Auto Authority compatible. So if you have a newer vehicle than 2018 that's a Dodge, Fiat, or Chrysler, you might keep that in mind, because the Launch will allow you to sign up with the Auto Authority website, and you'll be able to connect this tool to it and do everything that you normally do. This particular Xtool is not Auto Authority compatible. So if you have a 2018 or newer Chrysler product or Fiat, keep that in mind. Now they both are CAN FD and DOIP compatible. They both will do ADAS. They have VAG guided functions for BMW, Volkswagen, I think. They'll both activate hidden and high-end functions. So there's a lot of features on some of these modern cars that you have to have a scan tool to be able to turn them on and off. And either of these scan tools will do that. They both will program keys. Now, the Xtool excels at key programming and especially pulling the PIN codes and passwords. Now, the Launch will do that too, but it's a little bit more limited. I know on Chrysler, I haven't had luck pulling PIN codes with the Launch, but I have had luck using the Xtool. But I've been told that on Nissan and other vehicles, the Launch will pull PIN codes and passwords. So keep that in mind if you're going to be doing a lot of key programming. Now with the Launch, you get 2 free years of updates. With the Xtool, you get 3 free years of updates. So now let's take a look at both these scan tools. First, we're going to start with the VCI. So you can see the size difference in the VCI. Both these VCIs are these scan tools updated VCIs. You can see they're quite a bit bigger than the old school VCIs. They are upgradable, meaning that the firmware, you can upgrade the firmware in them. The Xtool's got power lights, input, output, voltage, and vehicle power lights, and that's on both sides. You can't really see them probably on the camera, but you got power, vehicle, and input, output. So you can watch those lights to see if there's some communication going on and to see if it's powered up. Now the Xtool has a little digital display here that pops up, and I'll show you that whenever we get it plugged in. But you can see the size difference. Now the launch calls this their DBSCar 7. Both the cords on these are about the same length. The Xtool's is about 1 inch longer. So first we'll take a look at the launch. Again, it's 10.1 inch screen. It does have a mic, so if you're doing screen recordings, you've got a mic that you can pick up sound with. They both have 8 megapixel cameras. They both have kickstands. You got your power button on the launch here. You've got a USB-C and a USB-A on top of the launch for connecting accessories. The Xtool's physically a little bit bigger, as you can see. The screen is 9.7 on the Xtool. Now on the Xtool, on the D9S, which is what this one is, all you have on the top is a USB-C connector. And then, of course, you got your power button. This is just a logo. There's your camera there on the Xtool, kickstand. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to turn both these on at the same time, and we'll see how fast it takes for them to boot up. And then we're going to connect them to the vehicle, and I'm going to show you the graphing, and we'll just walk through some of the features that both these scan tools have. So here we go. I'm going to push the button and hold for about 3 or 4 seconds. Now the launch does not automatically start the diagnostic program. So as soon as we get to the desktop, I'm going to tap the diagnostic button so it'll start loading. So I'm going to tap the diagnostic program. And there's the launch. And then if you're connected to the internet, it automatically establishes that internet connection. So does the Xtool. So the launch is a little bit quicker, getting completely booted up and ready to use. But the Xtool is not far behind. So to me, that's neither here nor there. Now, if you're connected to the internet, over here on the launch, you can use this intelligent diagnose. If you're not connected, use the local diagnose. We'll just walk through the service functions real quick. Actually, the first thing I want to do to get to the recording features of both these scan tools, the Xtool's got a little icon right here. On the launch, you go over here to this recording master. And I'm going to record the screen on both these. So keep that in mind when we're connected to the car. Both these scan tools still run good, even though I record the screen in most cases. So I'm going to just tap these buttons. So yeah, we'll go to service functions, special functions on the Xtool. The Xtool, you can see it's got a key programming icon right there. That's normally where I will go whenever I'm ready to program keys. Now the launch doesn't have that, but you can go into the module and it's got the key programming right there in the module. Just to give you an idea of what we got as far as special functions right there. Now they both got where's it at? Remote control, remote diagnosis. That's where if you're having an issue with the scan tool itself, Xtool or Launch can remote in and see if they can figure out what the problem is. I've never had to use that, but it's there if you need it. Now the Xtool's got a big TPMS, I'm sorry, the launch has a TPMS button right here for if you're going to do TPMS work. It's also got an ADAS button right here. So if you're going to calibrate the ADAS system, you've got a button right there. Both these scan tools do have some updates. Let me go in here because there's one thing I want to show you whenever you do your updates. You can see right here, if you just click that, it shows you the, what's changing as far as the update. Now, the Xtool's got the same thing, but you wouldn't know it unless you click the actual space right there. And then it pops up and it tells you what's changing, what's added. So keep that in mind whenever you want to update. If you want to see what the differences are, like here on Ford, fix software bugs is all that says. So it doesn't really give you a lot of information on that one. Immobilizer, oh, that's what we already clicked. Land Rover. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. But this is where you would update the system. And yeah, support. If you ever need support, right there's the Xtool email. And then the launch, I forget where the launch is at, but I remember seeing it around here somewhere. But you guys don't really care about that at the time. You got a feedback. So if you do ever have issues, I highly encourage you to send feedback to either of these companies so that they can fix, the problems. Of course, on the launch, you've got a shopping mall where, you can buy additional software for this and upgrade the software whenever it finally expires. Now, the nice thing about the launch, let me see where it's at. And don't pay attention to these prices. These are the prices. If you went through right here, that's the prices for the software. But what I would do is find a wholesaler that sells just the card, the upgrade card. Software store. Yeah, let's go over here to EV. This is all the EVs, and one of them, you've got the Tesla. So if you have a Tesla, you might take a look at the launch. It's got Tesla support. Now, if you've got motorcycles, you can also buy, you can also buy motorcycle support. BMW, Ducati, Harley, Kawasaki, just about all of them. Polaris. So, keep that in mind. That's just the immobilizer part of it. As you get it, you get everything. You don't get the EV. Now, this will do some EVs, but Tesla is kind of a proprietary system. So you've got to buy that separately. But all the others, GM, Ford, Hyundai, this will do EV. It does have EV support right out of the box. It does not have motorcycle support out of the box. You have to buy that. So let's get out of that. Of course, you can go to vehicle coverage here on the launch just to see what this scan tool will cover and what all functions you'll have. Info Center is kind of neat. Operation tips. The Xtool does not have this. The Xtool software is a lot more basic than the launch software, I've noticed. But the main part of what you need a scan tool for, the Xtool does, and it does it relatively well. So we're just going to click the first thing here. We got Audi. And you've got, a list here of different things like Audi self-leveling suspension calibration. Click check. And this downloads this from Launch's server. Hopefully they keep getting a lot more input because it would be nice to have, a growing library of things like this. But this is a step-by-step procedure using the scan tool to calibrate the, the suspension. So it could be helpful, if you're not familiar with a car that you're working on and, you're curious about how something's done. I'm not sure about Technology Handbook. I can't remember what that was. I think it's kind of a similar deal. And then, of course, you got the product manual and facts. Now, the nice thing about the launch is you go here to other modules, and of course this is where we went to the recording master, but you got calculator, browser, Gmail. There's where you'd access the camera, the gallery, the files, tablet settings. But if you go here to toolbox, it's got some real nice features. Now, these are additional accessories that you can buy that will connect to this scan tool. And let me show you this. So we'll just click on the O2-1 scope box. Let it open up here. And you've got a nice scope layout. Now, the nice thing about it is, see this automotive button? If you click that, you've got presets. So if you're checking fuel pressure, that will set the scope up for your common, fuel pressure checks. NOx sensor, coolant temp, ABS. Then when you just click OK on whichever one, all the scales and stuff should be set pretty close to where you already need them. So I thought that was pretty cool, and the layout looks really nice. Now the O2-2 scope box, it's a little different, but it's pretty similar. Little different layout, but if you come up here to the upper left corner, you still got the same deal. You've got automotive, and then you've got, all these different. There's your fuel pressure, there's your ABS. So same thing. But you've also got sensor box, so you can simulate a sensor. If you think you have a bad sensor, hook the sensor box up and inject a sensor reading into the system, and you can tell if the sensor's bad or not. Multimeter, which is probably pretty similar to the scope. Battery tester, immobilizer. So if you want to further enhance and make this a full-fledged key programmer, you buy the Pro3 immobilizer box, and this will pull every pin code. You can program BMW keys, Mercedes keys. You can program them all. You got video scope, you got a current clamp, so that'd be pretty cool. Another oscilloscope, another multimeter. This is just a key programmer that is a little bit of a downgrade from the immobilizer programmer, from what I understand. And you've also got an insulation tester for EV cars. So this is a dedicated EV box that you can buy. Anyway, now that we've looked at all that, let's go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to connect this up to a 2007 Jeep Wrangler. And what I've got is I've got a splitter. And I'm going to connect both these at the same time. And hopefully we don't have any issues doing that. I've tried this before in the past, and I could only get into the module with just one scan tool, but not the other. So I'd have to get into one module, and then if I wanted the other scan tool to also access it, I had to get out of that module completely before the other one would access it. But we'll see. I haven't done that on the Jeep, so maybe Chrysler's a little different. And let me show you these VCIs and how they look when they're plugged in. So here's the launch, and you got your lights on both sides. And then here's the Xtool. Got your voltage. And that's one thing. And the voltage is the one thing that I've heard people complain about on the Xtool, because the Xtool typically doesn't show the voltage up here in the upper right the way the launch does. So we're going to go ahead and just hit auto scan. Now on the Xtool, if you want to manually select your vehicle, you click the car, and then you manually go in and you can select what it is, the year, make, model, and so forth. You can also do a VIN auto scan or a manual input for the VIN. Now, if you want to do an auto scan, you're going to click the smaller auto scan button. Okay, and you can see it's updating the BCI firmware right now. So it's been a couple weeks since I've had this scan tool hooked up to anything. And you can see the launch is ID'd the 2007 Jeep, got the VIN, got everything. We're going to go ahead and hit Diagnostic. And we're going to go ahead and do both these at the same time to see if they'll actually communicate and scan this vehicle at the same time. I'm going to hit smart detection on the launch. I'm just going to hit OK. On the Xtool, I'm not going to start the engine. I don't know why the Xtool has been saying on Chryslers only, before auto scan, start the engine. Normally you don't want the engine running, but we're going to hit OK to both. Now the launch is already done. And again, I don't know if having both these hooked up, if there's some communication interference going on. And on both these, you can see that, so like if you have a fault in any of the modules, it's going to turn either red or orange. Gray means that it's not equipped or it's not there. It can't see it, can't communicate with it. If it's green, everything is good. Okay, so of course you can do reports, and the nice thing about it, I'm going to show you this. Let's see if I do report. Okay, so this is just a save. I thought you could do both of them do nice reports. What I was wanting to show was if you have a printer that shaded out for some reason. If you have a printer, a Wi-Fi printer that's, I think it's got to be, what's it called? Direct Wi-Fi capable. You can print straight from these scan tools straight to that printer, and I've done that. I don't know why. It might be, we might be too far away from the printer's inside. That might be why. It might not be connected to the printer. But anyway, most people don't really care about the printer. So let's go into both these modules. Now, the nice thing about the launch, if you take a look, is, you know, whenever I clicked on that, it slid over and it shows me the code right there. Pretty nice. Now, the Xtool, if you want to see the code without actually going into the module, you go to List, and then you click the little down arrow right here, and then that'll show you the code. And then on either one of them, if you want to go into the module, you're just going to hit Diagnose on the Xtool, Enter on the launch, and then we will be in the module. And, of course, you've got, you know, module information, read and clear DTCs, live data, actuation tests, special functions, system test, system check over here, read system configuration. Now the launch, at least on Chrysler, this isn't always on all vehicles, but on Chrysler vehicles, or in this case Jeep, you got this OBD2 monitors, which includes the misfire. And I've actually used that on this specific Jeep, troubleshooting misfires, and that's a handy thing to have right here, ready to go. You don't have to back out and go into OBD2, generic OBD2, to access that. It's right here on the front page. So I like that about the launch. And, you know, just for fun, let's go over here to actuation test on both these. And we'll just scroll down and you know, I'm sure that they're probably going to be identical, but I'm going to let you decide, you know, that. Some of the terminology might be slightly different. I've noticed from tool to tool, you know, One tool will call a particular function something slightly different. I didn't mean to do that. Both these tools have been very good at actually being able to control whatever you're needing to control. No complaints there as far as if it's supposed to do something, it will generally do it without a problem. So let's go ahead and back out of that. We'll go to special functions next. We're not going to do all modules, guys. We're not going down through every single module and doing this. We're just going to pretty much stay right here in the engine. I'm going to get in and show some of the graphing and you know, how it works with codes and stuff. So there's the special functions part of it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go into read data stream. Live data over here. And for some reason, you got the launch that's showing 161 possible PIDs. You got 160 on the Xtool. So what I was wanting to do is select some stuff that's going to be moving. So give me a few minutes to get, I'm going to select up to 12. I think the launch will do 12 graphs. I think the Xtool does 8, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to try to do 12 on both of them. We're going to do accelerator pedal position. Well, no, we're not, because I'd have to be inside. All right, guys, so on the Xtool, I was able to select 8 PIDs. Now, on the launch, you're able to select however many PIDs for the custom list, which is nice. Now, I don't think that's going to list all we've got 13 PIDs listed on the launch. We've got 8 listed, and you can see that it won't let me, if I try to select any more, it won't let me do it. In fact, it had a little deal pop up there, said 8 only. So I'm going to hit custom. So we're looking at the custom list on both scan tools. The nice thing about the launch is you can select over here, you got English or metric measurements values. So that's kind of nice that it's that quick and easy to take a look at that. Now on the launch, if you want to quickly look at the, you can also see the down arrow. If you select that, it'll have whatever kind of measurement you want to see there. In this case, millivolts or volts. If you click the little icon there, it'll take you straight into that graph, and you can see the graph moving. If you select that arrow right there, you can deselect whatever you want and select other graphs. Kind of nice graphing here on the launch. The Xtool has also got some nice graphing. Before we do a combination of graphing, let me go ahead and go over here on the Xtool, and like if you if you select the chart button, then you've got a deal that pops up. Right now we're in list mode. You can go to column mode. You go to graph. And you go to 2D graph, which 2D graph is just, it overlays all of them on top of one another. So depending on what you're comparing, this might be nice to have. So let's go back to chart. Normally what I use is just the regular graph. And even though we've got 8 PIDs selected, you can see that there's only 4 that shows up on the screen at any given time. Now you can come over here in this little icon here. You can select a minimum and a maximum value. So if you want to change, you know, what the scale is, you can select and change that. Of course, you can record on both of them. You can see here on the launch, you've got record, you got report, graph, save sample, and compare sample. The compare sample, not sure what the compare is. I've never done compare. Of course, save, you're going to save it. If you go to graph, whoops, you've got 12 graphs all at the same time. Now, another nice thing about the launch is if you turn the scanner, it also goes vertical. So sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you may want to do vertical, or you may want to keep it horizontal. And of course, combine is kind of similar to what we did over here on the Xtool. You've got all your graphing overlaid on top of one another. I've never needed to do 12 graphs at once, but I'm sure that there's probably times that you do want to have as many graphs up there as possible so that you can compare them at the same time. Now, a lot of people like this voltage up here in the upper right corner, and it is handy. You know, you can instantly look at any given time, make sure that your car voltage is, you know, where it needs to be. That's the one complaint that a lot of people have had on the Xtool, is that it doesn't have a voltage. You'd have to look at the BCI and determine the voltage, or go into live data and actually look at alternator voltage or battery voltage. I don't know what else you may be interested in. What's value here on the launch? Okay, that just goes back to that. You got record. I mean, I personally, I like the graphing, I think, a little better on the launch, but I don't really have any complaints on the Xtool either. Both of them are smooth. So when you are doing graphing, they're both nice and smooth and responsive. There's not like, it's not real choppy and laggy. I don't know what else you guys might want to see. It would be nice if you could select more than 8 PIDs. Even if you're not going to graph it, it'd be nice to have more than 8 PIDs. You know, you might need 20 or 25 PIDs just to monitor in list mode. The launch allows you to do that. The Xtool limits you to 8 maximum. See, if I try to select any more, I can't. Cancel selected. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I was just kind of wanting to show you, you know, what both these scan tools have to offer. They're both good, solid scan tools. They're both right around the same price range. You know, depending on any given day, you may find one on sale. You know, so I'll put links to both of them. Keep your eye open, put them in your basket, and if one of them goes on sale, hit buy. And just so you know, like on either one, if you want to go into system list, the nice thing about going into list mode is it tells you what the module is that you're working with, not just the acronym. If you go into topology, it's just got the acronym. So if you're not fully familiar with the acronyms, keep that in mind. Now, if you tap it, like here on the Xtool, if I tap it, it will pop up and tell you what it is. So it's not really like it's that big of a deal. Same with over here on the launch. It tells you right there, you know, the full explanation of what module that is. Anyway, we're done. This was the launch Pro3 Ace Elite up against the Xtool D9S Pro. You guys take care.